again on AI and climate resilience as part of the Asia Pacific Shelter and Settlement Forum. We're joined here today by an excellent panel, including Mohammed Imaduddin, Director, Digital Innovation and Settlements Department, State Bank of Pakistan, Mr. Abdul Haseeb, CEO and Managing Director, TMC, as well as Jose Maria Lucia Moreno, Lead Partner at the Ernst Young Center of Excellence in Artificial Intelligence, Advanced Analytics and Cognitive Solutions based in Madrid, in Spain, as well as to a more limited extent myself, Sebastiaan Boonstra. I'm the Program Manager of Data Analytics at IOM, that's a UN-related organization. Each of these organizations engaging today in this panel have a different angle or different institutional angle engaging with AI and climate risk. From finance and policy to technology, implementation of large-scale housing reconstruction and financial inclusion programs, to humanitarian response, climate resilience, as well as private sector, government, and international partners. The purpose of the session today is to shed light on how these organizations are already using AI in the climate space. Secondly, how this can be enhanced. 3, what the risks are of using AI in a way that potentially harms people and planet. And 4th, what success looks like using AI over the next 3 to 5 years. Now, to keep this as much engaging with the audience as possible, we'll start with a short 3-question Mentimeter to get a sense of what the audience, as well as the participants, are thinking about AI and climate resilience. Please note there are no right and wrong answers here. This is just simply to frame the discussion and reflect the diversity in the room. So if you could briefly open the Mentimeter that we have prepared. So I ask everybody here to briefly open up your browser and go to a website called mentimeter.com. And then you can log in using a code. So the code is displayed up there. It's 4861 5619. So the first question is, we all know that the new age of AI is upon us.
What kind of financing is being going to do, and what kind of like impacts it can have on climate change and resilience. But training of the models, making it homegrown or local Pakistan kind of thing is something would require a lot of collaborative effort actually from the providers, from the users, from us. So I think this is a very good initiative. Like I can say see you, Sebastiaan, a data person, a data scientist sitting over here. EY is here, who's been leading things. So we are sitting here. There, I can see a lot of faces over here that we are collaborating actually to go to reach where we are supposed to reach. And perhaps this collaboration would help us in devising the right kind of structures and right kind of a framework to utilize the benefit of AI.
Thank you very much. We'll ask now Abdul to reply. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sebastiaan. So, in our view, where I've seen AI help most, it's a very rapidly upcoming field globally, very disruptive as well. So, where we have seen it upcoming and helping climate resiliences in terms of planning and reacting a response to the disasters from climate or by climate change. Now, how can we be more ready? And I think how AI helps us quickly react is the key part. In larger organizations, what happens is there's a lot of data, and the ability to react quickly on top of that particular data to plan initiatives which can help recover from those incidents, I think can be fast-tracked by a lot. So what has changed? What has changed is clarity within large programs and large organizations, that clarity that can now be determined with the help of AI on top of the data sets that the organizations has, and the ability to act on that particular data in a very meaningful way. I'll give an example here. So we were engaged with Sindh People's Housing Foundation on the initiative when they were rebuilding after the flood of 2022, and it was January 2023 when we started with them on building a platform. And the purpose of the platform was to decide who is the correct beneficiary of the funding and who's not. So what our team did was they collected images of before the flood situation from Google Earth and from the geo imagery that was available. And then they also got the imagery after the flood as well. And for what they did was for every application which was coming in, they verified all the credentials that the person who is applying is a valid applicant. That was number one. The geolocation was correct. And at that particular geolocation, they were able to compare, make a program where they were able to compare using machine learning the previous state of that particular land and the new state of that particular land, and pre-approve or shortlist the list of applications. There was a validation layer on top of all of this as well, where a human was sort of verifying that whether it's the correct scenario or not. But imagine qualifying within millions of applications, shortlisting the applications where the data was already determining that whether this particular application qualifies or doesn't. And all of it database, led by data. The previous state of that particular land and the new state after that particular flood, the new state as well. And then they went, and all of this was done within 30 days, the initial development. The program went on for a lot longer as well, but it was a very time critical thing because the entire objective was that as soon as possible, work and rehabilitation should start to kick in so that we can start to give the real relief to people. So in order to do that, the objective was to release the funding, approve the applications as soon as possible. So with the help of technology, the first release, which was just to qualify and validate this application, was released out in 30 days. And then on top of that particular release, all the application data was fed in and further it was used as well. Now, when I look at it right now, within 2 years, AI has moved so forward that the same work that was done in 30 days probably is available off the shelf in many of the AI libraries which are coming in out of the box. So probably that can be achieved much sooner. So in my view, in conclusion, I think the ability of AI to work on top of the data sets that you have, to be able to react quickly, to be able to build applications which can execute this particular planning quickly, I think is a game changer for all the planning and response to climate effects. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I'll ask Ernst and Young to provide their answer.
So, first of all, let me thank you for inviting me here. And I wanted to do a forward very quickly. Coming from Europe, maybe you can tend to think that floodings and climate change is not affecting us. But right now, as of today, in Spain, because of a very heavy rain winter, we have 15,000 people in Andalusia, in the south of Spain, out of his homes. Yeah? And it's still raining, something that never happened before. So we are absolutely also engaged in this journey because it's affecting northern, southern countries, the whole humanity. Having said that, we are seeing that the speed of change and application and the relevance of AI, totally agree we cannot do good things if we don't have the data right, but I think we are going to comment later. We are doing or seeing from UI a lot of AI applications to have better data and better manipulation of data. The consequences from my perspective is that we can have, first of all, more speed at decision making. Yeah, and from the very top frontier models, I don't know if you have heard, but DeepMind, that is one of the labs inspired and funded by Google, is deeply involved in the development of an Earth 2 model that will have vast applications of climate change. Yeah, they have announced soon release of that, and they are working heavily on that. It's a world model, but so that will allow us to be able to predict better and to take more informed decisions in anticipation, yeah, hopefully. But also we are seeing that this fast decision can happen in many other examples, as my colleague was saying, a better informed decision on capital allocation, safer considerations in terms of planning. We are seeing massive impact on better supply chains and planning as well, better decision, especially for global supply chains that are challenged these days with all the economic shifting, but it's also affecting climate because all these changes and replanning has got an impact in corporations in terms of carbon emissions and other things. Yeah? So the positiveness of all of this is that we can have better informed decisions faster. I totally agree with him. For me, the challenge on AI, and my team is super deeply involved on that as a center of innovation, is try to bring it into applications and elements that will provide return on all that efficiency that is not fancy, but is real and allow us to have impact.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think we've seen kind of breadth of scope from all the way from financial inclusion to the operations within a housing construction program to more better predictive analytics. Two projects that we as IOM are working on, for example, is we want to provide a complete digital mapping of all the infrastructure together with the government of Sindh in one district in Sujal, and then using available open source data layers, looking at flood risk that is every year slightly changing, but more or less over the years and over the centuries has remained the same, to see, okay, well, what are the specific infrastructures where, for instance, reinforcement would need to take place? What are the specific bridges that are most at risk if such an event like the 2022 floods or last year floods, for example, would reoccur? Another one is that as IOM, we are a very large responder in the so-called shelter and non-food item cluster. We provide support first and foremost to people, populations. And the big problem during crisis is that you don't know where populations are and that they frequently move. So you need a very responsive, adaptable, and ideally longitudinal data collection program, and this is the program that I run. And when we try to track displaced populations, where they are and what they need. Now, one of the very innovative ideas that we are currently pitching, and we are working on together with the governments as well as NDMA, is using automated telephone data to see, and this is aggregated, it's anonymized, it's safe. Nobody can drill down to the individual level, but using every time anybody is connected to a cell phone tower, it creates one ping to a cell phone tower, and using that aggregated for everybody that hears a cell phone, you should be able to see in what radius from a certain cell phone tower they are, and that aggregated allows us to build an image of where populations are and then where they are going. Now then, the big question is, and we'll get to that more, is about also governance around that data. So who owns that data? Who manages that data? Who's allowed to distribute that data? Because this is also links up with discussions around sovereignty. So this is an example from my particular world. Coming to the second question, and I'll go back to the State Bank on this one as well. In your experience, what is currently the greatest barrier preventing AI from being used more systematically for climate resilience? Be it at government or private sector level? Is it data quality, institutional capacity, governance, incentive, or trust? And you kind of alluded in this in your previous answer as well, so feel free to elaborate further. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Sebastiaan. The first thing is the data quality and consistency. Without the quality of data, consistency of data, and readily availability of that data is really essential. So how you would access the data and how reliable that data is something very important. So collating and provision of data which is reliable, readily accessible, and updated is something which is very much required if we want to use these kind of technologies actually. And then training those models are also very important. Open source data, mostly the data is available, which is international data. It doesn't have the localized Pakistani data available. So we have to like have those data sharing protocols in place. That's why I refer to the framework actually. The framework should be there, right? Right. And on top of it, how to it is also about the capacity and the capability. That's why I touched upon, building the human capacity. Actually, the people who are giving those prompts are as good as what kind of responses we will be getting. So the people who are training an agent, AI agent is something which is how good those people are and how well trained the model is. So because it's all the about training the model, providing the right kind of a data, right kind of the people would use it right, and they know how to use it. This is what it is important. So one is the technology, other is the data, and on top of it, it's the human who would be actually using it. It's not like AI is sitting over there and it would like predict everything and tell you everything. Somebody needs to ask them that what's required, train them, and put them to a certain level where they would definitely start to predict and inform you, and preventive responses would be there. But reaching there would require a lot of training of the models actually, provision of the of data, lot of collaboration of different platforms. So it is not to fully harness uh, data gaps in capability and capacity of people, saying and knowing that it's a disruptive thing. So, disruptive is a buzzword, but what actually disruptive means is something beyond a lot of people's understanding actually. So it is disruptive. If we do not use it responsibly, then it might create more problems than goods. But yes, we have to work together for it. I would just add one thing, perhaps I missed this thing really important. Um, the climate in countries like Pakistan, this was with reference to the housing and the floods which happened. But what happened is, happens every few years is because of these floods and heavy rains, is we lost our crops. So there's crop loss, food security problem occurs. So I think, and the investment is gone, and then new investment is required, both in terms of infrastructure, let it be housing, let it be public infrastructure, let it be the infrastructure which is required to store the food grains, and where it should be, and what kind of patterns are there in terms of crops and crops resilience, and what kind of a timing should be required to sow a crop, and when not to do it, where not to do it, is something is also really important. If we can have a predictive model layer on it, right? Um, I have spent almost, I think, close to a decade actually in less than a decade perhaps in agriculture financing, developing the agriculture models and financing, providing the very needed agriculture credit in the country, and the other priority sector, and to the SMEs also. So in that that role, I have seen we have developed crop insurance, then we have developed across the board, universal access to crop loan insurance, then crop loss insurance, but every time it happens, like, yeah, Google Map is there, Sparko data is there. There are so many things are there, like coding layers. We have done a lot of things. But at the end of the day, you know, predicting and seeing things is something which was lacking, because like 10 years back, the technology wasn't there actually. It wasn't readily available to be used. It was there, but it wasn't readily accessible and available. So now it's there. Perhaps we can use it for better agriculture inputs, more productive financing, and also better service quality actually, especially in from the banking sector. You know, AI can be used for better service quality actually, identification of, just like in housing and how you have identified the applicants. So it can also assess the applicants. It can there can be better chatbots actually. We can train those chatbots which can make help the people, because we have lower literacy rate, right, to filling the applications, to giving them the respective data, to prevent frauds actually. Frauds is also something which is very prevalent. So we are working on AI-based fraud solution, because one of my job is to make operate the payment systems actually. So I'm working on a fraud-based solution right now, which is a AI-based solution. I was for the last 3 days I was in Abu Dhabi. I came back like 2 hours back actually. But my my colleague said that it's important that you should be here because it is important to be part of this panel. So I was kind of I had only 1 hour in between to catch the panel. So I thought that I should be here. I should hear. I should explain that what's happening and how we can what is being done. During this visit, I have we have going one step ahead in a AI-based fraud detection system actually. So this is where we are. And this is how things are evolving. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we're very happy that you managed to make it here. I believe you're also in the middle of your transit, so thank you very much. I believe you're going to Lahore again after this panel, so thanks very much for making it. Yes, we'll ask Charlie. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Chris. I think it's not at all technology. Technology is already there. It's far beyond as well. So technology can already converse in Sindhi, Urdu, Pashto. It can already do things really, really fast that we are not even thinking of how to use it. So technology is already there. I think we are lacking behind is our readiness. Our readiness from a perspective that AI especially, it works on top of data. AI is an engine which is there in terms of technology. It works on top of accurate data. If that data is already available, it is going to do wonders for you. So in our view, if the data is not correct, no matter what you build on top of it, it is not going to be effective. So that is why. In our scenario, what happened and what happens is when the data comes in, it's not accurate. And in a situation like a climate disaster, automatically you need to respond very, very quickly. And if you need to go and correct your data, the initiative by design becomes inefficient. That is number one. Number two is not just data, but then, in case of a response, usually data is required from multiple departments as well. So even if data is there, data is not going to be complete within the departments. First, they will not share data. Once they are going to share data, one data set is not going to be compatible with the other data, or it's going to give a completely different picture between the departments. And by the way, very, I think, great example for pre-preparedness from a data standpoint with the towers example that you gave. So I think our readiness, whether it is in terms of accurate data sets that we have, our simulations in terms of what if it happens, how we are going to respond. And I think my colleague, he also referred to the fact that floods in Pakistan is not something which is going to happen once, in our lifetimes. I think every decade, one large flooding is something that we have all seen happen. So I think we should also expect it to be there in future. So the question arises that how ready we are for the next flood and how we are going to respond to it. What are the data sets that we have about the populations that are who are there as well? How we are going to collect that data sets that every different department has correlated and create a collective response. Whether that response is going to be used by agriculture department to better plan the crops and the food shortage which is going to happen, for rehabilitation and housing, for financing by the different departments who are going to require the data to better finance that particular rehabilitation effort, or to begin with preventive, I think, activities which are the first sort of aid to the affectee population as well. So I think that readiness and that simulation is something, at least for flooding, should be there as a default go-to mechanism by us. Then technology piece is already there. We don't have to worry about the technology piece. That I think Global North is doing a lot of good work on. I think you already highlighted that as well on the technology front. And we need to work ourselves on our readiness to be ready to use that data sets that we need to prepare, put as part of the use cases in AI and other technologies that we have available, and to respond to it quickly and more effectively to get out of a situation that arises. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll give the floor to Ernst Young, but maybe Ernst Young can also elaborate a bit on what we discussed earlier today. The question of it's a fancy word. It's called interoperability, but it means that quite often, if humans need to link certain data sets together, if they're in different formats, they're sorted differently. I mean, the columns are shaped differently, etc. Naming conventions are different. Then it takes a lot of manual time to link these things together. But AI now, as a new frontier, is becoming, is creating systems that are much more interoperable, can understand different structures of data and link them together in ways which are at inhuman speeds. So maybe over to Ernst Young.
Yeah, I think we have covered most of the risk or the barriers. But we have a positive view, as Sebastiaan was mentioning. I want to bring a little bit of hope on this, because the reality is dispersed data sets, incomplete, sometimes lack of willingness to collaborate. But we see also positive movements to interconnect data sets. Again, AI is not only about automating and having a linguistic interaction with the machines, but also about doing and gathering data, interconnecting data in a more automated way. Yeah? For me, there is a barrier or a challenge that wasn't that mentioned. That is, when you are talking about climate, we need to have a steady effort. Yeah? It's not one-off, maybe on an emergency or whatever, but then for prediction, for real-time use cases, you need a continuous effort and a supply of data. And in many cases, especially in the global south, what we see is that there is a program, you get the data, and then the program discontinues and data is stopped there. It's accessible, but maybe not the continuity. So that's another barrier. But I want to bring the positiveness of hope in AI for data that can help us cleanse, connect. I'm also participating in other international forums, especially under UNDP on development and for climate observation. There is a big push on having open standards for data interoperability. Yeah? And there, I came up on the AI Indus Week earlier this week in Islamabad. You have to have your own sovereignty, especially for me. It's relevant not only on the model that is complex, it's a complex race, but on data, you can build your sovereignty here in Pakistan. Every country should have ownership of data, but in an interoperable way. Yeah? You have to collaborate across countries, many for climate. Yeah? And I know it goes against the direction of today's world, but I'm positive on all this. Yeah?
Thanks very much. Yeah, we play also small, but sometimes perhaps meaningful role in the sense of ESRI standards, etc. Yeah, so maybe a question to the two private sector panelists here today. So if you were advising a government or regulator today, what is the, and maybe keep your answer short here, one AI-enabled capability they should prioritize in building over the next 2 to 3 years?
I think, in my view, the ability for an early warning system to detect and respond accurately to at least, like I mentioned earlier as well, to at least the natural disasters and climate events which are repetitive and which we are expecting. So the ability to expect them, the ability to respond to them, and to be able to be ready with the right data sets and pre-planned responses to those events. I think that is an ability which can be done. And then again, building on top of, I think the positive side of it, we can use AI to brilliantly plan our responses upfront and to ready our data as well from different sources to bring it together with the right people so that all the departments they are ready with a response as well, and they should have their own knee-jerk response to a climate disaster which is sort of expected, unfortunately, but expected.
I think it has been mentioned by Sebastiaan, but I think having the right governmental frameworks at all the different levels of government is relevant. For me, and coming from the innovation that we are seeing, again, I think we are going to see an emergence of organizations dealing with the knowledge management on top of data. It's a new boundary that's coming, the former so-called metadata. But for example, if we need to establish a dictionary on what do we call certain elements, technical, societal, I think regulators and governments has got the mandate or are better placed in order to drive this interoperability of data through better knowledge manipulation. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Perhaps international organizations can play a supporting role in there, in the sense that a lot of the definitions, etc., that we use in our reports programs are standardized across countries. Question number 4, maybe also to the same two gentlemen. What do you see as the main risks in applying artificial intelligence to climate resilience in examples of bias, exclusion, over-reliance, or perhaps misaligned incentives?
I think so. My apologies to do the same line again and focusing on, I think, the key part, which is data and our accuracy of the data sets that we have. Again, I think while AI brings in a lot of benefits and quickness, its dependence on data is also a drawback as well. So I also caution against an over-dependence upon data and AI at the same time. So we need the human in the loop as well. Like the example I was highlighting, that we're able to take the images before the event and after the event and co-relate them. But still, on top of that, we had a person who was taking that particular decision because of several other factors and incomplete data sets as well. There is a strong chance if we have missing data, we'll be able to miss the people or the affectees who might need our help in the decisions that come out of an automated system. So that is where I think a human in the loop is required as well. So I think from an AI standpoint, it is a great help, but an over dependence on AI cannot happen as well. There need to be human in the loop as well, who uses that data effectively to run programs and to make sure that we are on the right track. So it is a great assist, a great drive, and a very good way to accelerate any initiative. But at the same time, it needs to have humans in the loop as well who are capable and who use it to effectively respond.
Thanks very much. I think a good example of this is populations that are not covered by birth certificates, populations that do not have CNICs, computerized national identity cards. Those are populations that are at risk of falling behind or being missed because they are per definition not in our data systems and not included in databases such as those maintained by NADRA. Maybe over to Ernst & Young for their views.
Yeah, it's difficult to add things, yeah, because I think we are pretty aligned. But obviously, AI is technology that relies on data foundations, and if the data sets that we use to train the models are biased, we will have bias, yeah. And there is a clear risk that we need to manage, especially when you are global institutions and government, is to eliminate or reduce that and be sure that we don't create more inequity or equityness, so that really the technology provides help and aid here, yeah. And then the other thing that might be a big risk is gaps on the accountability. Yeah, one of the things that we are working a lot with private institutions, especially, is on, and in some countries there is starting to be big regulation on the frameworks, but there might be big gaps as well on the framework that will protect the individual. For me, one of the biggest challenges, not only on the climate resilience, is of this technology, is that is very invasive of the individual because of personal data and the ability to interact in ways where we are not being aware, but we can be hacked. Yeah. So establishing the right protection, also in the climate chapter, for me, it's going to be relevant. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that links also to the argument of sovereignty. Who is accountable for when something goes wrong, and if data misses people or is misused or results in adverse outcomes, then who is responsible for this? And when the models create adverse outcomes, then it needs to be clear who's the key stakeholder. Maybe question to all panelists as a last question. Looking ahead, maybe the next 3 to 5 years, what would you think success looks like if AI was really embedded in national sectoral climate risk systems? Maybe you've already had a few visions of this, perhaps also from the State Bank, but also from Mr. Haseeb, but maybe you can expand a bit further. Thank you very much.
Uh, uh, Definitely, in 3 to 5 years, we will be a lot mature, actually, both in terms of the framework. I'm hopeful that there would be a framework, especially for the financial institutions, um, uh, before even 3 to 5 years. How to use it, how to responsibly use it, uh, building the capacity of the people who would be using it actually, and who would be eyeballing the decisions and the guidance which has been created through that model. There are other things which are automated, completely automated, dispute handling, automation of applications in different languages. There are so many things, like enhancing the service qualities, um, training, understanding data availability, unlocking the data quality. I already mentioned before, the hosting of such solutions is something which is really important, especially for the data protection. You highlighted, Sebastiaan highlighted the sovereignty aspect. Is there certain kind of data cannot be and shouldn't be shared actually, but it might be required. It would be required actually for certain decision making. But the good news is we have a Pakistan Digital PDA, Pakistan Digital Authority actually established. They will be working on data exchange there. They will be working on data protection and exchange laws, because if data exchange layer is there, then how to unlock that data would be there. So the rails are being built, the SOPs are being developed, the framework would be needed. Data protection laws, which are in different draft forms, would would have to be enacted. So previously, how to correlate that data was a problem with the data exchange layer. Perhaps that issue should be resolved. Submission and timely submission of data and flow of the data. Who owns the data, where it resides, in, uh, would be something which would be not any shouldn't be a bad problem in future in next 5 years. API based solutions and data exchange would definitely is part of the design. So everybody can have their own data residing in their own systems, and only when certain kind of a data field is required, only that data will be fetched. So this is the global practices which have been emerging is something which is work in progress in Pakistan. So perhaps in 3 to 5 years, all those rails and roads would be there. I'm pretty hopeful that all the frameworks will be there. And we are walking in the right direction. The systems are being developed. The integrations of systems is being done. So all the provinces are being interconnected. All the providers and institutions are being done. So in 5 years, I think we should be in a better space in terms of quality, in terms of reliability, in terms of timely availability of all these things which are prerequisite. Only thing would be then how to responsibly use it, train the people who are using it, and also train the decision makers actually, who might they should also understand that it can do more good than bad.
Thank you very much for those reflections. Yeah, and I think with the guardrails established, I think also data exchange will actually become more frequent and a more frequent thing that agencies do in Pakistan.
So in my view, 5 years from now, it definitely should be more data-driven and more essentially than AI-driven as well. So I would like to imagine a future whereby we have a better coordinated short-term, long-term response. First of all, an early prevention alert system, then a short-term, long-term response by every department, which is data-driven and predefined based off of all the data sets that we have. So all the good work that is being done by and is now started on data exchange layer by PDA, that should ultimately result into autonomous actions by all the different departments towards the response that benefits the effective population. So whether it is agriculture department, whether it is food department making sure of the short-term, long-term food, whether it is relocation of the people, whether it is your grid and power distribution system. So all of those can be ready with a response 5 years from now based off of the data sets that they have right now.
Yeah, that's a lot of different systems that need to work together, right? From meteorological data, meteorological department, private sector partners such as Weather Valley, going to alerts, how alerts are distributed, how this goes through telecommunication provider down to individual users, how does it reach non-mobile users and those without connectivity or internet. So the whole chain of actions and data infrastructures that need to be aligned.
A little bit more of futuristic and optimistic view. First of all, in climate, net reduction of CO2 emissions for the whole globe, and why not for Pakistan as well, in 5 years. AI is very capable, yeah? And then second, probably that we will talk less about AI because it will be embedded, it will be foundational, but it will be everywhere, but we will not talk as we are talking right now because it's hype, but it will be fully integrated in the technological curve of change, that we are in the plateau of productivity where we use it seamless and we focus on the next big thing that will help us create a better world.
Thanks very much. I think that's a great closure for us here in the panel. I know we've gone a bit already close to overtime, but I wanted to invite questions from the room as well. So I see already one hand going up there. I can walk around and give the mic.
Thank you, viewpoint of panel. My name is Dr. Aliaskar, and working especially climate change. Topic is very nice, and I receive your viewpoints, but that's very complicated. Abdul Haseeb is mentioned. So there are so many stakeholders, and because we have a lot of already models available, because we are talking of the climate change, so we looking different kind of models like early warning models, meteorological models, and even GIS system, remote sensing. So these, and because yes, if looking the stroke of the climate, floods, droughts, heat waves, this major in living, these are the effects due to climate change. But if you looking with kind of the model AI you will connect, and how you will prepare the model, how you will nexus the model, because we already, but we cannot entirely rely on the AI without collecting the primary data. If looking, when we'll give application of the AI, you will, that's secondary data, and but that is not quantitative and qualitative data. We can completely rely that one, but your futures, I think, is depend on a human capacity. They can do, but I think we cannot rely wholly solely on the AI for the climate resilience and building. So I think you because you give the response from the Spain's today's rainfall in Spain, even that's in looking at the UK temperatures high, and even there's different events in the floods, especially Pakistan in today's housing settlement shaping today conference. So how can we handle? How can we forecast through the AI for future planning? So this is my questions of panel. So should be realistic, because in the future, because I am being a doctor, but I cannot lie. That's I am asking question.
So I think we need to look back at Nadra initiative. I'll give you a retrospect. We had a system which was already an ID card, identity set system. Then came Nadra. Now, if you look at Nadra where it is today, because of the accurate data and the data that we trust is coming out of Nadra is going to be accurate. Still, there might be missing people. But that has led us to develop n number of other systems which are dependent on Nadra. Whether it is our banking system which depends on it, whether now it is our police system in several provinces, whether it is our property, real estate management system as well now, which is creating that base of it, etc. So I think I did caution about an over dependence upon AI and data that is there, so we should not be over dependent upon it. But the right amount of dependence on other forms of data as well that we require, we need to firm those data sets up as part of our readiness. So our readiness for AI is always going to be data. Data is the key fuel which is going to run AI. So AI is a model that is just closed. Nobody knows what is inside it and how it works. What the input goes in, that is the only thing that we can determine, and it will produce an output. It can be a very good model, it can be a very bad model, etc. But one thing that we can definitely control about AI is the data which goes in. And that data set is our readiness that we need to improve as a nation if we need any response. So it can, whether it is for crop, who was the farmer who's cultivating in that particular province, in that particular district, in that particular tehsil, and what was their normal crops, what was the volume of the crop, so that when there is an insurance to be provided, for example, all of that data is provided, but that data needs to be pre-prepped as well. If it was telecom authority which need to prepare a response and PTA is involved, they need to know all the towers and tower data and all that. If it is your grid, they need to come and do all the grid information as well, which is there as well from a digital. So essentially, for every department, for a response, there needs to be an accurate data to begin with, that what to fix. If you need to do a rehabilitation, you need to know what was there before it happened and how it was working. So even that is not mapped correctly right now. So it all comes down to our readiness about our data. Over dependence on AI and data, I completely agree. But Today, we primarily shy away from it because we know our data in several of the departments is not as accurate as we want it to be. But we are dependent upon our data where we know it's reliable. Nadra is the example that I just gave for our reliable data on which we really depend for many of our financial systems as well. So, in short, I'll caution about dependence on data, but I think we need to fix our readiness by fixing our data sets and be ready to reuse our data in the right context, in the right direction so that we can take it.
But sorry to say, because you are giving the response of Nadra, there's a lot of the errors in the family trees. So there are people are wandering here and there. So my again, because it is right response related date, because he's giving the Nadra. Nadra is prepared the data set, but there's lot of the variations, errors of family trees. They are not accurate, because when we talk about the climate, this scattered in the. This is not talking about the Pakistan. We are talking about the globally. What is happening in the corner of the global. So now all the climate is changing and also affected all corners of the world from all aspects. Because I give one response, a big in our respect, one author give the example. In our Pakistan, policeman has more responsibly handled the climate change, because he's keep playing role displaced people. He protect the vulnerable peoples, and so on. Every activity is handled by the policeman, because he's if foreigners want to visit, they will work with them. So these all peoples, all the stakeholders, because due to this climate change, I think increase their responsibilities. But we are not talking about here because.
In respect of time,
sorry. Sorry, one thing is, because just like you will mention of the greenhouse gases, but we are going to climate resilience, but we don't talk about the climate change or the mitigation. This is my question, because we can handle. We are going to protection side. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, I'll take that. So, it is not at all to discourage other elements as well. It's a holistic effort which requires an all-round effort, including mitigation, making sure that we are climate responsible, making sure that we are ready in multiple other ways. It's just that the topic of the panel here is AI, and the focus on AI. There are multiple sessions, I believe, happening in parallel. They are discussing all the rest of the topics as well, and dimensions as well, I'm sure. But as technologists, I can tell you that from a technology standpoint, the impact that we think our field, which is AI and data as EMC, what it can contribute. And globally, if you see AI and data, it is moving countries. It is the point of global disruption right now. So obviously, it's a very important angle from a transformation standpoint. It can play a very vital role, technology overall. So that is why the topic of discussion here today is from an AI and data standpoint. It is not at all to undermine other key elements as well and to contaminate. It is just that we want to focus on one of the critical elements and pillars, while others are equally important.
I just want to say one. How many of us use Google Maps? Dr. do you use?
Yes.
How many of us? Do you know? Almost everybody in this room uses Google Maps, and whenever it says you should take this route, you should go from here, you shouldn't go from there, you follow it. You don't ask the policeman, Doctor.
Yeah.
You never ask somebody else standing over there. You never listen to FM, whatever the police helpline is there. You never call them. You just see what the Google map is telling you and you just follow it. So this is how an AI algorithm-based decision making has evolved. It's mapped, as Haseeb was saying, on a primary data, that where the roads are, where the closures are, where the problems are, and then how the trends and the movement of the vehicles and how things are moving, right? What kind of speeds are there? Based on all those things, that it tells you how much time it would take, what route you should be taking. So the closest thing which we use every day in our lifetime from last couple of years, and we are now almost blindly depending on it, is Google Maps and Apple Maps and alike. So I just wanted to flag you that now in future there will be other things also we will be blindly following actually without knowing that what's happening, should we rely on it or not, because we know that it works better than a human.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and then underscoring the literacy around that. I see here a hand. Very apologies. I've been informed that I only have time for one more hand. This gentleman here has been raising his hands for a long time, so give it the floor here. I'll recommend we'll take one more question and then unfortunately we'll close the session, but I invite you all. I think the panelists are here for a few more hours and not Mr. Imaduddin, he has to go, but I invite you to come to them and speak to them in private. I'll give the question to the gentleman here.
I would like to respond to my dear friend that human error is essentially available at any way, and human error is there. So, in my opinion, the climate change, we all human beings are also responsible for that thing. And now we are trying to protect that thing, and we should appreciate all the geniuses there. So, this is a one path for our best and protected future. So we are very hopeful and we are very grateful to all of you, and we hope that we will do and with the right path of the AIA and contribution in the betterment of this world.
Thank you very much for that comment, for the optimist. I think it's greatly appreciated by the panel. I think that's unfortunately the last question. We would hereby close the session. Thank you everybody for your participation. I see a lot of people in the room. I saw a lot of people more joining also whilst the panel was going on. So I think it was very successful. I think there's some last things to be done by SPHF.
Hello everybody. So we'll be presenting awards to our esteemed guests. And for that, I would like to call upon stage Mr. Jaman Lal Chandani from SPHF, our senior WASH specialist, to present the awards to our esteemed guest. Please, everybody, give a round of applause for our esteemed facilitator and moderator, Sebastiaan. For the second award, I would like to ask Mr. Imaduddin to come forward, please.